Hi everyone, my name is Abhiraj Garikapati. Welcome to my YouTube channel Amazing Abhi. Did you really think there would be no traitors within the world government? Ever since the Timescape law has warned Luffy that betrayals are very common in the new world. And we've already seen it happen many times. Apu, Kanjuro, York, Teach, and so on. So what about the world government? Doesn't Amo have any traitors? There have been a few theories about Shamrock, the other holy knights, and Jupiter was probably the most popular suspect. However, I believe Amo's real traitor is actually Figure and Garling. And in this video, I'll explain why and show you all the hints Oda has left ever since he introduced this character. The Gorais have spent centuries serving Amo without hesitation. They always seem completely loyal, carrying out Amo's orders without asking any questions, but even then, not everything always goes according to plan. Shanks joined them and left as if it were nothing. Saturn disobeyed Amo's orders and failed to destroy Emmet, the giant robot. Even Figurlin Garling became a father after returning from a mission, and I'm sure that was never part of Amo's plans. Now, his son has become one of the greatest threats to the world government. I'm simply trying to show that even though it seems like Amo controls everything, and that no one could ever betray him, reality is very different. As I explained, Amo can only see and control abyss-marked characters when they're close enough to him. Outside of Marriager, that connection weakens, and as we saw, Amo couldn't even see who killed Harold. Even though the original 5 elders seemed completely loyal to Amo, everything changed after Saturn's death. Figurlin Garling was promoted to become the 5th Gorais, and he's clearly different from the other 4. The fact that Oda included him in the panel featuring the 12 most important characters already says a lot. We don't see any of the other Gorais there except Garling, so why is he so important? More questions arose after Garling's reaction when Amo decided to personally travel to Elbaf. The original Gorais all tried to stop Amo from leaving Marriager, implying that doing so carried some kind of serious risk. They were clearly worried about Amo and whatever weakness leaving Marriager might expose. Garling, however, didn't seem to care at all. He argued that sitting around and doing nothing wasn't solving their problems, and that they needed to focus on Marriager and the celestial dragon starvation. In other words, he supported Amo's decision to leave. I probably wouldn't have paid much attention to this detail if we weren't talking about Oda. He gives importance to every single detail, so the fact that he chose to include this seemingly non-important conversation in the same huge chapter where Amo's ancient form was revealed says a lot. What if Garling wanted Amo to leave Marriager because he knew it would make him vulnerable? By the way, Amo seems to have lost his silhouette form after transforming, so how is he planning to return to it? That's a topic for another video. But what if Garling intended to take advantage of that situation? The original Gorais have always acted as one for many years. Garling is a new addition, and we could tell that the other Gorais were not very happy when he became the 5th elder. I believe that Garling, an important character like him, didn't want to become a Gorais for the power or the title. It was simply another step that brought him closer to his true goal. I believe Garling is not loyal to Amo at all. Instead, he sees Amo as the final obstacle standing between himself and the empty throne. Even if his goal isn't the empty throne itself, I'm convinced he wants to overthrow Amo. There are 2 very interesting patterns surrounding this character. The first one is his journey. Oda has made one thing very clear. Every single time Figurlin Garling appears, he is climbing higher. He first appeared as one of the Holy Knights. Later, he became their supreme commander. Then, after Saturn's death, he was promoted to one of the 5 elders. Every single appearance has marked another step upward. His progression is actually very similar to Blackbeard's. At first, Blackbeard was introduced as a member of Whitebeard's crew. Then he became a. Before we move ahead, please take a second to like on this video. A like tells me that you enjoyed this topic. Your support helps Amazing Abhi grow naturally. Traitor, later Ashichibukai, then a Yanko, and so on. Welcome back to Blackbeard very soon. My question is this. Why would Oda spend so much time emphasizing Garling's rise if becoming a Gorais was the end of his story? I'll repeat it again. Garling is one of the 12 most important characters in the story, As a Gorais, Garling fits the role of a ruthless traitor perfectly, unlike the original Gorais. Garling has always been portrayed as evil, ambitious, and obsessed with strength. This is the man who executed Mio's guard and the other celestial dragons, members of his own kind, without a second thought. Speaking of Mio's guard, the second pattern I found is connected to the celestial dragon families in their distinctive characteristics. For example, the Don Quixote family seems to be much more down-to-earth. They don't view ordinary people as insects. Oda uses the Rosswood family as the most arrogant and annoying celestial dragon family in all of One Piece. The Manmayer family seems to have their own distinctive feature as well, their strange bipolar eyes. And then there are the Figurlins. Unlike the other families, the Figurlins seem destined to go against their own blood. Shanks is already standing against Imu and the entire world government. Despite being one of the 4 emperors, he continues to receive treatment completely different from every other pirate and even from the Marines themselves. Meanwhile, Shamrock's recent introduction has created several theories connecting the 2 brothers to Skull and Hattie from Norse mythology. The wolves destined to bring about Ragnarok, the end of the world, and I'll explain even more about Figurling and Garling in just a moment. There's another detail that almost no one has paid attention to. Shortly after arriving in Elbaf, Shamrock was suddenly called back to Meridua while Summers and Killingham stayed behind to take his place. Why was Shamrock needed? What was he capable of doing that the other Holy Knights, or even the Goraisai themselves, couldn't? Or why did Oda even bother adding this detail in the first place? What if Garling specifically wanted his own son back because something much bigger was about to happen inside the Holy Land? If Garling really is planning something against Imu, having Shamrock close by suddenly makes a lot of sense. Now let's return to the connection with Blackbeard. None of the betrayals I mentioned at the beginning were carried out alone. Every single traitor had an ally. Apu and Kunjuro had Kaido, York betrayed Vegapunk for the world government, even Teach had an entire crew waiting to support him after he left Whitebeard, so I believe Garling has an ally as well. And that ally is Blackbeard. There's several reasons why. I've already explained how similar the 2 of them are. They just keep climbing higher and higher, and every single time Oda decides to show them they've gained another position of power. Time and time again, Blackbeard has proven that he'll work with absolutely anyone if it helps him achieve his ultimate goal. He's loyal to no one. He simply uses people until they're no longer useful to him. His entire crew is built on that philosophy, and even his own crewmates understand it. Garling appears to be exactly the same. He has no honor and no morals. Even during God Valley, he first lost his battle against Rox, even though it wasn't a fair one-on-one fight, and later finished Rox off after he was already unable to move. That is what earned him the famous title of Champion of God Valley. That was very similar to how Teach killed Whitebeard at Marineford. Blackbeard rarely goes all out by himself. He always looks for the easiest path to victory without wasting unnecessary energy. Of course, someone like Blackbeard will also try to secure powerful allies inside Meridua, and I didn't make this video just because I found similar patterns in their character developments. Now, I believe these 2 are already connected, and Oda may have hinted at nearly 100 chapters ago. When the Blackbeard pirates arrived at Egghead, they knew exactly what to expect. They knew Saturn would be there, but how? Blackbeard didn't go to all 3 islands after Wano. He never went to Elba, for example. Instead, he encountered and fought Law, but he didn't know which of the 3 supernovas would end up there. It could have been Kid or even Luffy. Teach didn't have a specific target at Winter Island. He simply wanted the road poneglyphs, and as he himself said, he also planned to sell Law's devil fruit. He would do the same with Luffy or used his kid. However, he specifically sent Katarina Devon and Van Augur to Egghead for Saturn. Unlike Teach's encounter with Law, this wasn't random. After Katarina Devon touched Saturn, both she and Van Augur immediately said that their mission was complete. They didn't need Luffy, Robin, nor Vegapunk. They didn't need anyone else on the island, and that's an extremely important detail. They were standing on the most technologically advanced island in the world. Countless inventions surrounded them, and yet the only thing they came for was Saturn's appearance. But why? It's not as if Katarina Devon can simply walk into Merijua disguised as Saturn and expect the guards or other Gorosei to let her pass. Saturn is already dead, so from a story perspective, that explanation doesn't really make sense. So, did Teach actually need Saturn because of the Abyss mark? But even Rox himself didn't know about the Abyss powers or Jomi Reversi. Before we move ahead, please take a second to share on this video. Sharing helps this video reach friends who may also enjoy anime, gaming, travel, cricket, chess, career basics, or personal stories. Your support helps Amazing Appy grow naturally. This entire scene leaves me with two very important questions. First, how did Teach even know Saturn was coming to Egghead? That information was top secret. Even Vegapunk himself didn't expect anyone more important than CP agents to arrive. And second, how did Teach know about the Abyss in the first place? That information is even more secretive, and even the most knowledgeable pirate we've seen, Rox, didn't know anything about it. The only reasonable explanation that comes to my mind is that Teach has an ally inside the world government, and no one fits that role better than Garling. And we all saw what happened immediately after Egghead. Saturn died and Garling was promoted. I don't think that was just a coincidence. It almost feels like Oda deliberately created an empty seat among the gorillas so that Figurlin Garling could take it. I'm not stating this as a fact, but to me it makes perfect sense. Blackbeard needs an ally inside the world government. Garling has always seemed suspicious, and the entire situation at Egghead didn't feel random at all. There has to be a reason why Oda never properly explained Katarina Devon and Van Augur's mission. Every single time the Blackbeard pirates make a move, something huge happens. At Marine Ford, they killed Whitebeard and stole his devil fruit. Later, they defeated the remnants of the Whitebeard pirates. After the times came, they defeated Law and his crew. In every previous case, we immediately saw the consequences of their actions. But this time, it's still a mystery. Oda never explained exactly why Katarina Devon and Van Augur did what they did at Egghead, and I believe that mystery will eventually be answered when Figurlin Garling is revealed as the true traitor within the world. But even if Garling succeeds, we all know exactly what Blackbeard will do next. He'll betray him. That's Teach's entire pattern. He uses powerful people as them do all the hard work and then steals everything at the very end. What's also poetic is that Teach might not have planned to kill Garling from the start, but he eventually will, because the two share another very important connection. Garling killed Teach's father, and the only person still alive who knows that Roxetta's son is Imu. Imu, along with a few holy knights, also knows that Garling killed Rox. So if Garling or Imu reveal how Rox died at the end, I'm 100% sure Blackbeard will kill Garling. Teach doesn't just want to become the king of the world. He also wants to avenge his father, which means his two greatest enemies are literally Imu and Figurlin Garling. Also, I still believe Blackbeard will be Luffy's final opponent. If Luffy is destined to change the fate of the world and rewrite the story of the Void Century, then Blackbeard will change history as well. Teach is not just another random villain. He was introduced nearly 25 years ago, and ever since then Oda has been carefully building him up. Oda isn't going to kill him off before he reaches his dream. Dreams never die, and if Blackbeard is destined to change history just like Luffy, then he will also dethrone Imu just as Imu once dethroned Davy Jones. Rox called Imu the Rat King, implying that Imu never truly earned that title through strength or honor. Instead, he cheated his way to the top, and Blackbeard would do exactly the same. He wouldn't challenge Emu in a fair one-on-one battle. Teach would use Garling to strike Emu at his weakest moment. At least to me, the idea of an alliance between Figerland, Garling, and Marshall D. Teach makes perfect sense. Write your opinions in the comments, and if you want to know more about. Thanks for watching. Bye. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to Amazing Appy. Subscribing makes sure you do not miss the next video, and it gives me motivation to keep improving the quality of every upload. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one.